Do you like my shelves? I just put them up. Today we're talking about The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I'm going to start with a plot summary of review that will have spoilers. This video is definitely not for people who don't want spoilers. They will be everywhere, okay? I'm gonna start with as much as I can an unbiased summary. Then I'm gonna go into my thoughts and feelings about this book. I did a little bit more preparation for this than I normally do. This was a Kindle read for me, and I did a lot of annotating. This is my first time annotating in a long time, but it was just begging to be annotated. So at the beginning, I will be doing the summary, and then after that, thoughts and feelings. This book opens up with our male main character, Rowan Kane, who is at a funeral for his grandfather. We kind of find out from backstory that his grandfather was the founder of this really huge company, which has something like Disneyland. And I wasn't clear on whether he was the founder of a company that created Disneyland, or if it was more of like it's just a Disneyland and then the rest of the family had other ventures. But regardless, there's this Disneyland-esque place that they now own, which is called Dreamland. And when he's after the funeral, the lawyer comes up to him and his two older brothers. In the letter, it says, if you want your 18, I mean, it's nicer than this, but it says, if you want your 18%, you have a job to do. And at the end of doing this job, there will be an independent committee of voters that will vote on whether they like the way you've done things. And then if they like it, then you'll get your 18%. So his job was to become director and find any flaws within the amusement park and deal with those, have a plan to deal with those, and then present his plan to the board, the committee, voting committee, and then they would approve them or not. And he had 6 months to do this. And the independent committee of voters were all Dreamland employees. I'm just going to pause here and say, every single character in this book is a Dreamland employee. Everybody lives on, like, I want to call it a base. Like, everybody lives at the base. And I don't think the base is connected to the land, really. I think they have to, like, go into some underground thing to get there. But everybody lives in, like, a neighborhood that's, like, apartments and stuff. And this includes the owner. So all of the people that she has interactions with are all in this town, and they're all employees. It took me a little while to get that. So our main character, Rowan, he's from Chicago, and he is very cynical. He really doesn't like Dreamland. He owns his own streaming service, and in the beginning I was thinking it was like Disney Plus, like, oh yeah, he owns the streaming service that's connected to his family's business, but it's more like it's its whole own thing, and he like created it and started it, and he's like the owner and the CEO of this streaming service, totally separate from Dreamland. Though Dreamland does make movies. I know that. And every other way it's the same. They have their own characters. They have like lands within the land that are based on movies that they've had. So then we cut to our female main character. And by the way, this is first person POV, dual POV. We cut to our female main character, Zahra. She works at the salon in Dreamland, making kids up to look like characters so that they can, like, really have the whole experience. So she like does their hair and their outfit and their makeup and whatever to make them look like whatever character they want to look like. Really cute idea. We find out she used to date another Dreamland employee, Lance, who cheated on her, and he stole her plans for a Nebula land, which Nebula is like potentially one of the movies that they have. A Nebula land, like, addition to the park, which she had come up with those plans under a mentorship from the founder himself, Rowan's grandfather. Brady, I think his name is. So she was somehow in mentorship with him. That wasn't explained very well in general, but somehow she wasn't. She made plans for this. Her boyfriend stole the plans, but he didn't get the whole thing, or maybe it was just through conversations with her or something, and he submitted it as his own, and they made Nebula Land, and it's like not very good in her opinion because it wasn't her original plans. And anyway, yeah, so he totally threw her under the bus. That's some great backstory that we get very early on. So then, since Rowan is the new guy, he's he's in charge of all of the creators, and they are like, why don't we do his first day there or something? They're like, why don't we do the employee submission form and see if we like can get any ideas rolling? And he's like, whatever, those lowlifes won't have a good idea. So they open it up anyway, and Zahra sees it and she's like, ding, 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 I'm going to submit something. And you're thinking, oh, she's going to submit her original plans. No, instead she gets drunk and she submits, just like it was an accident, just like a savage roast of their current Nebula Land. And would you believe it, that gets her a spot to become a creator, wherein she gets a $10,000 raise. Her job now is to just think of ideas and present them to Rowan for his, I guess this is how bosses work, but for him to like steal later and submit to the board, kind of as his plan. So that's what she does. Her and Rowan meet like semi-regularly just at work when she's doing these presentations, and they have some real tension. There's sexual tension for sure, like pretty much from the jump with the two of them. In one of her PowerPoints, at the end of it, she has like one of her own drawings, and it was so horrible. Rowan was like, that's terrible. So he gets her in touch with Scott, who they text, he makes drawings for her, and would you believe, Scott is actually Rowan. Rowan is like an artist at heart. However, based on his childhood trauma, he does not do art anymore. And he doesn't want her to know that it's him. But Zahra and Scott get pretty close. They text every day. Also, this was just kind of random, weird, thrown out there. Rowan kisses Zahra one time when they're hanging out in her cubicle. Because, I don't know, the attraction in the moment was just so crazy. And there wasn't much going on. Like, they just, like, kissed. And it was like, what? And that was that for a while. So, Scott and Zahra are getting closer and closer. I think that they're texting for maybe, like, about 6 weeks. So, the reason why Rowan stopped doing art is because his dad, who turned into like a total drunk after their mom died, really like put him down for like being sensitive and artistic and not liking sports or something. So he's not done that for a long time. Meanwhile, Zahra starts a mentoring program for employees that are disabled, and he sees her flyer for it, and he takes all of the phone numbers because he doesn't want anyone getting her phone number, and he joins the mentoring program. But then of course it's just like him and her, and then Zahra's sister Ani and Zahra's sister's best friend or boyfriend, who the four of them, so then Ani goes with Rowan, and the guy, I forget his name, goes with Zahra. And it's like a great way for Rowan to get closer to Zahra, get closer to her family, find out some inside information. And then also Ani really likes Rowan, so she kind of gives him some, she kind of lets him in on some things. She helps him out big time. Zahra decides to get boots on the ground and take an unpaid vacation day to the park, just to like see what they be seeing, you know? So when Rowan hears this, he's like shocked. He thinks it's really weird. I think that's like the obvious thing that they should be doing. They hang around all day in the park. They have fun. They eat tons of expensive food. And They really have some bonding moments. Pause. About the unpaid vacation day, Rowan is actually the one, this is common knowledge, Rowan is the one who got rid of their work benefits. He slashed their benefits because he laid off 10% or something and slashed the benefits because they had 2 bad movies in a row. They don't get vacation days. They didn't get a raise at all, so they're still at minimum wage. And then they have horrible insurance that pretty much covers nothing. And everybody knows it was Rowan who did this, and the reason he does it, he doesn't say this until later, but the reason he did it was so that he could prove to his dad that he was, a hard ass or something. He just wanted a seat at the table pretty much, and it worked in a big way. So they go boots on the ground, they're having the day. He asked her on a date at the park, and she's like, why would I date my boss? And they get into a little tussle, and then he pulls a real Mr. Darcy move and says there's so many reasons why I shouldn't be attracted to you or something. Horrible. And she just walks away. So the next day he feels really bad. He confesses that he's Scott, and it really backfires. She had a very extreme reaction to it. She already has some kind of trust issues since she was cheated on, and she had all this guilt about liking both Scott and Rowan, which I'm thinking, this kind of solves all your problem. And then she says, I can't trust you because all you do is lie. So he apologizes by getting her takeout and taking it to her cubicle. She refuses it and she goes home. The next day he talks to her and she's writing her application for resignation, and he's like, you can't do that. They have this whole conversation and she decides to give him a chance to explain himself, and he's like, okay, I'll see you tonight to explain myself. And she's like, okay. Fortunately, his house is only a 10-minute walk from her, so she literally just walks right over there. They hang out. Just a check-in, we're at a 55% mark right now. He got them pad thai, and they talk about their childhood trauma, including this one time where it was the first time that he had sex when he was in college, and the girl took a video and then blackmailed him with it, and his family had to pay her off so that it wouldn't get out. Just normal first date conversation. But he does have a really genuine confession to her of his wrongdoings, and I did like that. Then they sleep together, and while they're sleeping together, he's like, this is just casual, right? I can't do anything more than that. And she says, yeah. So then after, she's a little conflicted about whether she should stay there or go. In the end, she ends up staying, and they have more conversation. They watch shows, and then she goes home in the middle of the night. Don't worry, because it's only a 10-minute walk. Then he takes her out for dinner the next night, and it's at a really fancy restaurant, but they see none other than Lance. Are you kidding? Lance, her ex-boyfriend, and he tells him off in a big way. And then he gives him a promotion to be in the Shanghai branch, which is supposed to be a really bad thing. I'm thinking, cool, get out of Florida. Then they get in the car and they have sex in the car on the way home. And she says that she knows he hates how much he wants her, and he doesn't want to care about her because it would mean he has a heart. And then he says, and she says, I was coming down from a high, so I don't even know if he really said it. He says, if I had a heart, it would be yours free of cost. Mr. I can't do anything more than casual. Please don't get the wrong idea. But wait, because it gets worse. The next day, Ani invites him to visit their family, and they have a dinner. We don't learn anything here. It was very short. It was a very short scene. We didn't learn anything. Then, sometime soon after, he takes her on a surprise trip to New York City in a private plane, where they go to his penthouse apartment and eat takeout and sleep together and play in Central Park. And this is just a weekend. Oh, the reason they went there was for a book signing for her favorite author, which he actually set up just for her. And she finds that out and she's like, oh my God. So he set this up just for her, flies her there. They play in Central Park. It's the middle of the winter. She ends up coming home and getting pneumonia. So she takes a few days off work. She's in and out. Seriously. It starts to get worse. She's really dehydrated. She goes over to Rowan's house, and he's like, I'm going to need a doctor for you. So a doctor makes a house call for them. The doctor's like, she's severely dehydrated. She needs to go to a hospital right now. And so she's like, okay. So when the doctor and Rowan walk out, she's like, okay, I'm going to the hospital. I need to get my phone out of the bathroom. So she stands up, she gets a head rush, falls, faints, and hits her head. Rowan walks back in. She's on the ground, blood everywhere. Calls the ambulance. She goes to the doctor. She's out for 3 days. And that's not because of the head injury. That's because of the dehydration and the pneumonia. She ends up getting better. But you know what? And you could see this come from a mile away. Rowan is like, oh no. This is just like a repeat of my dad and mom's relationship. They were so in love. He would do anything for her, and she ended up dying of cancer. And he's equating this situation to that because he couldn't say no to her playing in Central Park for like hours. And so she got sick because of that. And so he's thinking it's all my fault. And he breaks up with her, and she is pretty upset about it, as you can imagine. Then he goes to talk to his dad, and he's like, Dad, you're a horrible person. You know that, right? And the dad is like, yeah. Then he says, do you regret loving Mom? And he says, no. Duh. And Rowan is like, are you serious? And he's like, of course I'm serious. I don't regret loving her. And Rowan is like, ding, 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 ding. Got it. It's the one thing my dad has ever said that I want to agree with, and I'm about to change my life through it. So then Zahra finds out that she's actually on the voting committee. It was the grandpa's plan, since he knew her, to put her on the voting committee. And she thinks that Rowan knew this whole time that she was going to be on the voting committee, and he was just trying to like buy her vote. He didn't know. Okay, and it's proven multiple times that he did not know. So he tries to apologize to her, and this is the next day or whatever. When she's all better, he tries to apologize to her. She says, I'm actually quitting. This is my last official day here. So bye. And he goes to her house with a gingerbread kit and says like, hey, can we make gingerbread houses and you can like hear me out while we make them? And she was like, no. She closed the door in his face. Good on her. Then he goes home, makes the gingerbread houses, says, I'm sorry, with candy, sends a pic of it to her, and then is upset when she doesn't reply. Then it's voting day. They come to make the vote, and Rowan gives his whole spiel, and it's all about workers' rights. It's all about the employees. We need to double their salaries. They need to get more paid vacation, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, wow, he really did this because of me. And she's so touched. She's like, I think she literally cries. And then at the end of it, when everybody's walking out, everybody's left, and it's just her and the secretary and Rowan's dad. And she's like, she walks up and she's like, you know, you're a horrible person, right? You're the worst kind of human being, blah, blah, blah. And then she flips him off and walks away. Then, you know, they meet. She's so impressed by his thing. He says he doesn't want to move back to Chicago. He wants to stay there and stay director. Kind of potentially meaning that he's going to give up the streaming service. We're not sure about that. You know, they say they're in love, and the book ends on a sex scene. Then it's an epilogue, and she's pregnant, and they've changed Nebula Land to be like her original plan. And it's opening that day. And that's it. That's the story. So, I just want to say a quick thank you to my followers. Shocking, amazing, beautiful, wonderful. Love you guys. I obviously took a very long break from making videos. It was like hard to film videos logistically because I'm home with the kids and I film during their nap times. But my son stopped taking naps and he just does quiet time now. Our house was so small that I couldn't get anywhere where I couldn't hear him, where you couldn't hear him like singing or whatever. And then he would hear me talking, he would be talking to me, thinking I'm talking to him when I'm really talking to the camera. So it just wasn't possible in our apartment. We moved, that's why it's really become possible again. I was reading the whole time. In fact, I read a ton of books because I was working. And nature of my job is that I can listen to audiobooks like crazy. So I listened to, let's see, my last video was I think last year, and this year so far I've already read 50 books. So I made big headway, and nothing to report. I don't think I read a single good book. No, I'm kidding. With all that being said, I didn't get on this channel for months. When I came back, I realized like some of my videos had higher views, and it was like very exciting, and I had some very thoughtful and fun comments that I was really surprised to see. Everybody's so nice. I love it. There were some comments also I wanted to apologize because there were a lot of comments that were like, I can't hear you, which is true. You totally could not hear me. That's because I was using my phone speaker. Horrible quality. I mean, it's good quality. It's just very, very low volume. I mean, you have to sit like this to hear a single dang thing. So then I got like a little handheld one, and the quality, though the volume was much higher, but the quality was horrible. So then I got this, and this is much better. I mean, I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, but anyway, I just wanted to say everybody has been so nice. I know the amount of followers I have is like not that many in the grand scheme of things, but truthfully, you know, somebody has said this before. If that many people walked into my house right now, I would probably perish because of my social anxiety. I simply wouldn't be able to deal with it at all. So it's very exciting. And actually, my literally least favorite video, worst video of all, has by far the most views. It's disgusting. Guys, why don't you just watch the videos I like? The thought is, why don't I just delete the videos that I don't like, or maybe don't upload them in the first place? Honestly, didn't think that many people would be watching my videos. As I said before, I've said this a lot of times, my videos are really just, I mean, now there's a little bit more like conversation and there's a little bit more going into it, and I'm enjoying it a lot, so I'm putting a little bit more work into it. But definitely in the beginning it was like, I'm desperate to remember the books that I read, and it's so hard. So I just want to like info dump everything I'm thinking about the book and just upload it onto the internet so that I don't have to take the space up in my phone. So that's how that started. I'm embarrassed that the first video I got over 1,000 views or whatever is not a good video. So anyway, moving on to what my least favorite things about this book, starting with the grammatical issues. Now, there were a lot of things that bothered me, and I'm just going to go down the list because I really have a list, okay? On page 28, Zahra says to one of her child clients in the salon, this is the quote, "You are one pretty lady. I bet someone is going to mistake you for the real Princess Cara the moment you leave here." End quote. Then on the same page, 2 paragraphs later, she says to the girl's parents, "Lily made it easy because you both have one beautiful daughter inside and out." The one is throwing me. She says, "You're one pretty lady," and then you have one beautiful daughter. Weird. Why with that wording? That's nitpicky, I admit. Okay. Next, page 45. She says, "I cannot accept this offer," and to something that Rowan said. Some offer he made. And he says, "I didn't ask you a yes or no question." Let me repeat that. "I cannot accept this offer. I didn't ask a yes or no question." While "I cannot accept this offer" is obviously a negative, response. It's a negatory for sure, okay? It's not a yes or a no. It's not even a yeah or a no thanks. So "I didn't ask a yes or no question" doesn't make sense, okay? Choose a different response, man. It's like he had that one lined up. He was ready to go. No, listen to what she's saying. She said something different. Page 99, she made me feel this small, including an explanation of the accompanying hand gestures. She goes, and she put her fingers this far apart or whatever. That was on page 99. She used that same phrase of saying he made me feel this tall on page 117. So literally 17 pages later. That annoyed me. She actually uses it once more in the book, but I couldn't find it, so I didn't put it in there. Page 97. He says, "I tend to research my investments," referring to her. She says, she's thinking, "We aren't investments," my feminist brain calls out. Who is we? We, is it my feminist brain and me? Is that the we? Or is we the creators that he's referring to, like, "I don't tend to research my investments"? But he said that in response to something she said about, like, he knew a lot about her. And so she was like, "How do you know so much about me?" He's like, "Well, I research my investments." And she said, "We're not an investment. Who's we? Who is we? I gotta know who is we." And if she means the creators, shouldn't she say "we aren't investments"? Okay. Next, page 110. This is a quote. Her offer is ridiculous, especially seeing as I'm the one who acquired any streaming service worth paying a subscription for. Her offer was that she was going to give Scott her passwords to her streaming services. Let me read the sentence again. This is Rowan thinking this. Her offer is ridiculous, especially seeing as I'm the one who acquired any streaming service worth paying a subscription for. Is that not weird? Worth paying a subscription for. I'm the one who acquired. What does he mean acquired? Is that like in the business sense? Or does he mean acquired as in like he already has them all? Duh. I'm the one who acquired any streaming. So why does it use the word acquired? Okay. Next, page 214, my birthday. His POV. He says, I take it as permission. Oh, God. Okay. His POV. He says, he's not saying, this is him thinking. This is just from his POV. I take it as permission to wrap my hands around the globes of her ass and squeeze. The globes of her ass. The globes of her ass. When I heard globes, I was like, oh, he's talking about her boobs. And it says of her ass. And I was like, even worse. Ugh. Okay. Moving on. Page 247, his POV, he thinks, an asshole who doesn't care about making others cry, beg, or poor. Referring to himself, he doesn't want to be an asshole who doesn't care about making others cry, beg, or poor. Now, it's true. You could say an asshole who doesn't care about making others poor. That is a sentence you could say. But saying cry and beg, making others cry, beg, or poor. Poor, in case you're not understanding. P-O-O-R. Cry, beg, or poor. Horrible sentence. Cut it. Page 274, his POV. I dominate her lips, branding her with my tongue. 279, so just about 4 pages later. Her POV, she says, he kisses me like he wants to brand me with his tongue. The last sentence was, I dominate her lips, branding her with my tongue. 4 pages later, she says, he kisses me like he wants to brand me with his tongue. 279, same page. Just about a paragraph later, she says, sucking on my skin until I brand him. Think up another word, I beg of you. 281, she says something without abandon. Not correct. She's so full of life. She's just a force that can't be reckoned with. She's positivity. She's light. She doesn't care what other people think. She does whatever she wants. She lives her life with abandon. That is correct. With abandon. You don't say without abandon. Okay? Not a compliment. Not a compliment. Moving on. 288. He calls steamy breath smoky air. Page 347, during his presentation from her POV, she's thinking, he gets through some of the basic openings, including expressing his gratitude for our time and whatnot. No, I'm not making that up. That's how the sentence ends. Expressing his gratitude for our time and whatnot. You're the author and the sentence, okay? Expressing the time for our gratitude and what else? What else was he doing? What else was he expressing? Tell us. Or end the freaking sentence. And what not? No. Okay. Next. God, I hate this sentence. 352. During the presentation, he stops on a slide that has my breath catch. He stops on a slide that has my breath catch. Okay. Next. 362. 10 pages later. His actions speak the loudest words, even if it took him some time to get there. His actions speak the loudest words. His actions speak the loudest words. I didn't put that words in there. It's in there. It wasn't his actions speak the loudest, even if it took him some time to get there. No, his actions speak the loudest words. Next. this is the last thing on this part of on this chapter of grammar and things, is he uses a variation on my molars grind together 7 times. This book is 370 pages. 7 times is enough for you to be like, bro, go to the dentist. You need a mouth guard. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't my molars grind together every time. She was like, let me change it up. She says, my molars press together. My molars clench together. My molars smash together. So we might not catch on. But his molars be doing something. And it's that the molars on the top and the molars on the bottom, they come into contact 7 times. So that's all in that chapter. Moving on to the next chapter, it's going to be a different, because I haven't written that whole one out yet. So catch me in a little bit. Oh, and if you're wondering what the heck all those holes are, they're from towel holders that were put in a little wonky bonky, and they were falling out of the wall, so I took them out. And they made huge holes in the wall, and I haven't fixed them yet. Okay, so that's just a story there. Okay, so we're moving on to the chapter I'd like to call Cringe Horrible. That's all I have to say about that. By the way, I'm looking at my notes that I took from my Kindle. Page 33, Rowan's POV. I settle into a leather couch across from my desk. Father, our titles are nothing but a front developed over the years for public appearances. Here's my one question. Okay, so is he not your father? What else would you call him? Dad? Daddy? He's your dad. Father, our titles are nothing but a front developed over the years for public appearances. What's that mean? I get what he's saying, like, I don't really view him as a dad, but then call him something else? I don't know. They're in private in this moment, okay? So, not necessary. Next, page 37. I didn't include her in the recap at all because she was of zero importance, but her roommate's name is Claire. Zahra's roommate's name is Claire, and she's like a chef. So, page 37, Claire says, I can't apply there. They have a Michelin star. And Zahra replies, all the more reason to apply to the very best. I can't apply there. They have a Michelin star. All the more reason to apply to the very best. That doesn't make any sense. She should have said all the more reason to apply, period. Implying that Claire is the best. Okay, anyway, page 89, between her and Claire again, Claire states, I got the job. Really? At the Royal Chateau? Holy shit, I know Claire's talented, but wow. Her black brows pull together. Well, no. I'm so confused. Zahra says that last part. I'm so confused. Awkward wording, awkward conversation. Why would she say, I'm so confused, to a well, no. Obviously, this is her best friend. Just ask, what do you mean? Wait, what? Anything other to open up the conversation more. And also, she was one who said she should apply to this place with the Royal Chateau with the Michelin star. And she goes, holy shit, I know Claire's talented, but wow. What, so you thought she wasn't going to get in? Oui. So that's that. On page 100, Claire serves us the most amazing... Oh, God. Okay, so this is about Claire again. This is at the end of this conversation. She says... Claire serves us the most amazing grilled cheese I've ever had. Not because her skills aren't amazing, but because of everything a simple sandwich represents. Let me read that again. Claire serves us the most amazing grilled cheese I've ever had. Not because her skills aren't amazing, but because of everything a simple sandwich represents. Something tells me this sentence was reworked in the middle and something was lost, okay? Claire serves us the most amazing grilled cheese I've ever had. And then it should be, not just because her skills are amazing, but because of everything a simple sandwich represents. Which also, I'm like, what does a sandwich represent? The fact that she's a good chef? That's like saying, like, you have skills. That represents your good skills. No, it's just a sandwich that's really good because she's a good chef. That's why she got the job. And okay. Next, page 103. This is a text conversation between Zahra and Scott. This is Scott. Oh, so I say Scott. Scott, Does anyone tell you that you're ridiculous? Zahra. Of course, ridiculously amazing happens to be my middle name. Scott. I'm half convinced that you're crazy. The next message pops up before I have a chance to breathe. Zahra. Half convinced? I need to step up my game because I don't half-ass anything. I can't stop this is him thinking. I can't stop the laugh that escapes me. It's a rough sound I'm not used to hearing. Because of that. Half convinced I need to step my game up because I don't half-ass anything. That's what made him laugh after, 10 years of not laughing? God. Next, page 109. Rowan gets a text and he thinks, there's only one person who messages me during working hours and it's sure as hell not my brothers. Why would only one person message him during working hours? He's like a businessman, like very high up in a company. Nobody ever messages him? Ever? During working hours? Seriously? Nobody? Next. Okay. Conversation between some of the creators and Rowan. Backward? We've never had a ride like that before. Obviously, he states in a flat tone, and that makes me feel like I have the IQ of a P. Your idea is a good starting point, but we need to up the stakes next. He dismisses me with nothing but a wave of his hand. I want to be angry at Rowan for completely hacking away at my idea until it became a completely different concept, but I can't find it in me to be anything but excited. I've never even considered a backward roller coaster before. Bro, everyone and their mom has a backward roller coaster. This is the big leagues. This is Dreamland, and they've never even considered a backward roller coaster. Guys, come on, okay? Also, she says completely twice in one sentence. Boo. Next, he says, if I continue to find proposals lacking, then I'll be forced to find people willing to get the job done right the first time. Consider this your first and last warning. The creator next to me swallows loudly. I glance over at him to find a sheen of sweat dripping down his forehead. I'm somewhat thankful I'm seated farther away from him based on the smell coming off of him. Until further notice, employees will be expected to work 12-hour days to increase productivity and creativity. Will we receive a pay raise? Someone in the back pipes up. Rowan's blank stare sends a chill down my spine. Am I supposed to reward you all for being average? I think potentially what this creator was asking was, will we be paid overtime for working 12-hour days? Because saying, will we receive a pay raise after your boss said, you're literally disappointing me and not doing your job is shocking. I don't think they would ever do that. So if they're asking for overtime, then isn't it the law to give overtime? But anyway, he says, I'm not supposed to I can't reward you for being average. I don't think it's really a reward to be paid just above a minimum wage doing your job. Is that a reward? Don't quote me. Okay, next, page 122. I add Zahra's streaming account to my smart TV. If only she knew who helped produce her favorite Duke show. Did he not get credit? Was he not credited as one of the producers? If you got credit, then she should know. She knows your name. You're really famous. I'm sure she knows. Okay? Okay. Next is, this is his POV. A younger brunette woman walks into the room carrying a bottle. This is page 131, by the way. A younger brunette woman walks into the room carrying a bottle of soda, followed by a blonde male. They both have soft facial features, which is a dead giveaway for their Down syndrome diagnosis. My only note on this was, ouch. They both have soft facial features, which is a dead giveaway for their Down syndrome diagnosis. I don't know. I think she could have definitely worded that differently. Next, this is Rowan. I've always prided myself on the ability to remove my emotions from any kind of business decision. It took an effort to develop the skills, but I've perfected it over the years. I was the first one to suggest laying off 10% of the Kane Company employees when our company lost millions after 2 bad movies in a row. I've been known to be demanding and clinical, from forcing employees to work Christmas Eve to swapping health insurance policies to trim our bottom line. No amount of crying, moaning, or yelling from the employees could convince me otherwise. Despite this training, Zahra somehow got under my skin. Her calm and collected conversation about the employees' finances actually got to me. Literally all she said was, "We don't make enough money." That's all she said. That was it. Okay. Next. Page 164. I clear my throat. Consider it a paid vacation day on the house, he's saying to like his secretary or something. Her eyes widen. Really? We haven't had one of those in years. A paid vacation day? When he says on the house, that's null. That's void. It's always on the house. It's a paid vacation day. Really? We haven't had one of those in years. First of all, why are you still working there? You don't get paid vacation. Secondly, so what's the deal? Do you work every single day? Do you get unpaid vacation? I mean, you work full time, whatever. Simply, why are these people still working here? And they kept being like, we have the greatest employee satisfaction. How? Like, why do they even put that in there? They obviously don't. Okay, next. I'm talking a lot. My throat's starting to hurt. Oh, okay, so when they're in this, probably grounded me the wrong way. This has absolutely grinded me. So when they are in the park gallivanting, going about, she's in line. He cuts to be in line with her, and he's like, "Why are you not in Fast Pass?" And she's like, "I can't, like, sell my liver every time I want to go to Fast Pass or something." And he's like, "Next time, tell me when you get a liver for $200. Anyway, so then he's in the line, and the people are like, "Hey, you can't cut." And he's like, "Yes, I can. Look me up." And they look him up and they're like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Kane. I'm sorry, Mr. Kane. I didn't mean to yell at you. We just feel strongly about line skippers here." Yes, said nobody ever. Then he responds, "I'm sure that's the case with anyone who can't afford a quick skip pass." He responds in the driest voice. My jaw drops. You can't talk to people like that. I turn around, giving Rowan my back. No wonder everyone avoids him. He has the emotional maturity of a robot and the appeal of a rush hour traffic. That was a rude thing to say. I'm sure that's the case for anyone who can't afford a quick pass. Bro, that's mean. Like, you're literally being mean. Why are you? And there's no consequences, nothing. Like, it never comes back to that, nothing. It was like, that just happened and nobody cared. Next. I hated this. Okay, so they're still in the park and they are going on a ride. And she says, "When is the last time you rode this one?" I probe. His hands tighten on the handlebar in front of us. "When I was 10. 10? That was forever ago." Way to make me feel old. My entire body shakes from laughter. Sorry. That was so funny. Next. This is just the next line. "I still remember how Cal used to cry every single time. His reaction always," Cal is his brother, his older brother. "His reaction always made my mom laugh, so we would bully him into doing it with us over and over again." I suck in a breath. I've never heard him talk about his mom before like this. That's sweet that you did that for your mom. That's sweet that you made your brother cry, and that made your mom laugh? I don't understand. Next. They're still on the ride. I remove my hand, but Rowan latches onto it and holds it trapped against the bar. The graze of his thumb across my knuckles sends a spark up my arm. I gasp. He rears back and releases my hand. I gasp because he's holding her hand while they're going on this like scary ride. So this is her finding out about Scott being Rowan. She says, she's thinking, "Oh God, Rowan's impeccable timing makes perfect sense now. Like when he showed up at my cubicle offering to buy me takeout after I told Scott I skipped dinner. It would take me hours to sift through all my memories to connect to the dots, but I don't need to bother. There's only one conclusion. I was wrong about Rowan. He's the worst kind of liar and the type of man who made me believe in a lie for months because of whatever sick game he wanted to play with me." Dare I say a little bit of an overreaction. And it wasn't like they were having like deep talks. They were literally just like kind of being friends. God. Next, this is a little saucy. Page 216. I wasn't including the pages in this, but promise I'm reading straight from my Kindle. Page 216. I shove her down against the bed and she laughs as the air gets knocked out of her. First of all, if the air gets knocked out of you, you can't laugh. All right? Secondly, you wouldn't be. If the air got knocked out of you, this is you. That's you when the air gets knocked out of you. That's you. He literally like on the bed and she's like, huh! She can't breathe. Literally the air's knocked out of her. So that was an exaggeration on the author's part. Next, this part was absolutely rushed. I said this in the summary. He's at dinner with her family. Rowan scowls at me, shoving my food around my plate like a child. Unlike me, he devours it all and asks for seconds, which only makes my mom happier. My dad claps Rowan on the shoulder before giving him a hug. I'd laugh if I wasn't already on edge, seeing as Rowan remains stiff as a board during the entire exchange. Rowan unlocks his car and opens my door for me. I freeze, unable to get inside before I clear the air. That's the end. Seeing as Rowan remains stiff as a board during the entire exchange, Rowan unlocks the car and opens the door for me. That's the end. They left dinner. That was the end. That was it. Next, I know I'm too close to this thing. I'm like yelling at you guys. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting really heated. I already mentioned this earlier, but here's the actual quote about the smoky air. He says, I lost all feeling below my knees about 30 minutes ago. I blow a breath just to prove my point. The smoky air disappears into the night. This is from Zahra's point of view. It feels like a whole minute goes by before he finally looks at me. You were dehydrated, bleeding from your head, and tempting fate. You're lucky to be in the bed rather than in the morgue. So, just to preface this, she says she wakes up in the hospital and she's like, why am I here? And he's like looking weird, acting weird. She says, are you okay? He says, I will be. She said, do you want to tell me why I'm here? He says, you were dehydrated, bleeding from your head, and tempting fate. This is because she got up, had a head rush, fainted, and hit her head while she has pneumonia. Why didn't he just say, oh, you have pneumonia? And also, you fainted and hit your head. Bro, way. He said, you're lucky to be in this bed rather than in the morgue. Bro, that is not how you tell somebody who just came back to consciousness why they're in the hospital. Wrong. By the way, that was page 306. We're getting close to the end now, okay? Then Zahra says 307. Next page, Zahra says, I'm sorry you had to go through all this. I can't imagine how scary it was for you. The vein in his forehead pulses. I was terrified, Zahra. I found you barely breathing with too much blood coming out of your head. And when I got you to wake up, you were talking gibberish. I thought you had permanent brain damage. So she says, I'm sorry you went through this experience of her having pneumonia and falling down. Also, why does he say with too much blood coming out of your head? And then you were talking gibberish. She's probably like, where the hell's my phone? Oh, God. Okay, next. Page 313. He says, love was never an option. If I made you believe otherwise, I apologize. I would never subject you to that kind of misbelief when I'm moving back to Chicago soon. I don't even need to quote all the times, but here's my note on that quote. He says that after sending her ex to Shanghai, flying her in a private jet to New York, and spilling all his childhood trauma on her. That's what he said. So, oh, I'm sorry you thought I was in love with you. I would never. After he's done breaking up with her, he presses his lips against the top of her head. You deserve the world and more. That's the new It's Me, Not You. Seriously. So then 343. This is his POV. Okay, we start out. Zahra ignoring me is nothing but a challenge. I decide the only way to get her attention is to do something ridiculous. And by ridiculous, I mean making the damn gingerbread house by myself and sending her a picture. The structure's damaged after falling too many times to count. And the roof keeps sliding off, but I'm committed. I place the final gumdrop on the roof and grab my phone before the entire thing caves in on itself. I'm sorry. One of the gumdrops slides off the roof, ruining the letter M. I'm quick to fix it. and snap a photo. I attach the photo to my text chain with Zahra and send it along with a missing you message. That was his apology, by the way. That was his apology. That was his apology for breaking up with her and wanting to get back together. Okay, then we are on page 345, getting very close to the end here. It's voting day. Zahra gets to the panel, and the only other person there is the secretary of the grandfather. And I think she's now the secretary of Rowan, but she was the secretary of the grandfather for like forever. And when he said his letter and he was like, hey, you're a part of the voting committee, just ask Martha and she'll like get everything set together for you. That's what he said. So meanwhile, door creaks open and Martha strolls in. Martha, I jump up and give her a hug. Is Mr. Kane asking you to help him set up? She shakes her head. Nope. The late Mr. Kane asked me to be here. Really? Girl, this lady is way more qualified to be here than you. Why would you ever have that reaction? It's giving mean girl in a big way. Next. Oh God, this is so bad. I'm about to read to you the entirety of the and then everyone clapped situation what she had with Rowan's dad after the vote. I wait outside the main conference door. Everyone exits one by one except for the person I've spent 10 minutes waiting for. What on earth is he waiting for? The door opens and Seth Kane strolls out of the place like he owns a personal catwalk at home. For a second, I consider if I should really go through with my plan. Yeah, fuck it. Mr. Kane, I tap on his shoulder. Yes, he looks down at me with a raised brow. Ugh, the way he stares at me has this strange ability to make me feel 2 inches tall. There it is. There's the other one. 2 inches tall. I wanted to say that although you might be considered a good businessman, you've done it at the expense of being a terrible, verbally abusive father. And one day you're going to look back on your life and regret the way you treated your children. And I hope it hurts you as much as you hurt them. So fuck you and fuck off. I swivel on my heel and catch Martha staring at me with a big grin and a thumbs up. I'm sure to blow her a kiss on my way out of the door while using my other hand to give Seth Kane the middle finger. Oh God, I hated that whole thing and I have nothing else to say about it. I really have nothing else to say about it. Then at the end, he asks her if he cannot use a condom and he doesn't even ask her. He said, can I try something new with you? And she said, yeah. And he says, can I not use a condom? Or I want to not use a condom. And he's like, I don't want anything else between us. A condom is not a symbol. Okay? Condom is not a symbol. There's something between us. Yeah, it's a condom. Okay? Keep it there. Then, in the epilogue, we find out that the girl is pregnant. Let me read this from the beginning. Finally, on cue, his eyes drag across my face before trailing down my body. He tilts his head and blinks twice. What is that? What? I blink innocently. Whose pin is that? He flicks the pin on my chest, making it tremble. I protect the little piece of metal showing off a bun inside of a tiny oven. After I took a pregnancy test at Claire's apartment 3 weeks ago, she surprised me with this little gem for my birthday. I thought today was the perfect time to announce it to Rowan. Mine, I grin. He blinks again like his brain needs to process all the information. You're pregnant? Who would get that? A bun in an oven? Pin on her chest? And he's like, you're pregnant? Bro, guys, go. It's simply not possible, okay? And she waited 3 weeks to tell him and they're like madly in love and married? God, that's horrible. I'm in a jacket in my own house. It's called, I don't know why, but it's freezing in here. Okay. It's been a couple of days since the last part of this, but I've been ruminating. I've talked about, 100 nitpicky things about this book, but I wanted to talk about like overarching things that I either liked or didn't like. It's mostly I didn't like. First of all, one of my big issues with this is that they don't make any money. They're getting minimum wage, this is Florida. So that's like $22,000 a year or something. And when she becomes a creator, she gets a raise that's $10,000. And at first I was thinking, it must be $10,000 a month because $10,000 a year is like nothing. for that huge of a jump. I mean, now she's like creating the theme park. So I wasn't understanding that, but it really did mean a year because they go on and on about how they really don't make any money. But when she got the rate, she was like, "Are you sure this isn't a typo?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it should be more money than that." The other part was there were not really any characters beside. This is a thing that a lot of romance books have issue with. But this book wasn't even that short. It's 370 pages. That's pretty long for a romance. She had her roommate. And here's another thing. I actually don't know what her other book in this series, who it's about. I'm assuming it's about one of his brothers, so not one of her friends. But every character feels like it's a character that has their own book. Like, they have conversations like we're supposed to already be in the middle of it. I really dislike that. I don't mind, like, these type of whatever companion books, but I really hate that when you're like, oh, I bet the other book is about them. Because it has this weird, like, oh, I'm not going to introduce you now. You've either already been introduced or you will be soon. So I don't need to do that work. It's like, no, I still want a backstory. I still want to know about other characters beside literally the two main characters. Other thing was his dad was a horrible, horrible person. They talk about it multiple times, all of the horrible things that he did. And yet we didn't get to see his turnaround at all. Like, he's a horrible person. He's so bad. He's probably, they talk about it so many times. And then all of a sudden Rowan goes to him and he's like, Dad, no, Father, you've really disappointed me. These are all of the things that I felt like you did wrong. And his dad was just like, I know. And it was like, that was that. And at the very end, when she like attacked him verbally, he had no reaction. He didn't even say anything. And it's like, okay, so you've been a horrible person for 50 something years. And then now you just decide like, oh, my pride means nothing. I won't even defend myself. I'm not saying that he should have, but it's so unrealistic. So I hated that. It just made him like, is he a villain or not? It was very like kids movie villain where they like turn out that everyone kind of gets along in the end. It was a real Sharpay Evans. So he'll probably go back and be a villain in the next book too. I did not like that at all. Her family, we know nothing about them. We truly know nothing about them. It's like they are literally in one scene and we learn nothing. The only other person we know about is Ani. We don't even know about her until after Zahra makes the mentoring program. And we don't know that she has Down syndrome until we meet her. And so we got no internal anything about their childhood or growing up or what it was like or anything from Zahra, even though it's like from her point of view too. So it was just like another character to throw in there to make it seem like it's not just these two characters, but we learn nothing about the side characters at all. His brothers too. It was like, why are these guys even here? Really? This is the last thing. His grandpa. So apparently she was like in a mentorship program with him, but we heard nothing about it. I kept being like, oh, they're really going to tell us like how this extremely low employee who's just working in the salon at the theme park is somehow under a mentorship with the owner creating like a new land an idea for a new land. Like, how did they meet? How did this come about? I'm not understanding, period. And it was never explained. I was really waiting like, okay, it's like maybe they have some, like, he was friends with her parents or they have some other kind of like long ago connection. No, we don't get any of that. It's just they mention it like 3 or 4 times. Like, oh, Brady, he was so sweet to me. He was so important to me. I'm so like devastated about his death. It's like, Brady? I don't know. It's a little weird. Not to mention, she's 23 and he was in a coma for 3 years. years, 4 years. So she was 20, barely 20 when they were doing this, and it was like a long-lasting thing. So it would have started when she was, what, 18? I mean, what were the reasons for them to be having a close relationship? There's got to be a reason. One thing I found was that I did prefer the second half of the book really a lot. Like, I way preferred it. And this is kind of rare. I feel like the author is maybe not very good at writing angst. So those are my thoughts on the book. Probably give it about 2 stars. The intimacy was really great. The story was not that great. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next, but I don't think it's going to be Terms and Conditions. Okay, bye.